Welcome to the HR Community Podcast. My name is Shane O'Neill, founder of Civitas Talent, the HR and HSC recruitment community. Each episode we will host HR leaders and discuss their journey and discover best practice HR solutions across the HR industry. Whether you're a CEO, HR executive, or operating across the wider HR space, this podcast is for you. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment and share your reviews. Enjoy the episode. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the HR Community Podcast. Today we've got a great HR leader on the show. I'll give you a quick intro into Christian. So Christian Campanella is the HR Communications and Sustainability Director at Pernod Ricard. Welcome, Christian.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Sorry if I sound a bit muffly today. I am a little bit under the weather, but I had to jump on today. I couldn't let this one slide.
Sounds good.
Over to you, just to sort of give us a bit more of an overview, Christian, as to what your role entails, and obviously a bit about the business itself.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I've got a bit of a broad role covering HR, comms and sustainability. So I'll start with who Pernod Ricard is firstly. So Pernod Ricard, it's the second largest wine and spirits company in the world. So we're known mostly for our brands. So brands like Absolute Vodka, Jameson, Irish whiskey, Jacob's Creek wine, St. Hugo wine, and the list goes on. I could be forever listing them off. So we sit within that business, and basically we're what's called Pernod Ricard Winemakers. So we're the global wine business for Pernod Ricard. So we're headquartered here in Sydney. We've got wine operations across Spain, Australia, New Zealand, the US. So teams over there in vineyards, wineries and the like. But also what we do is we also run the commercial sales business for Pernod Ricard within Australia and New Zealand as well. So we're selling the full wine, spirit, champagne portfolio as well. So yeah, we're about 1,600 permanent employees. At any one time, you could have 300 or 400 seasonal workers working for us in the vineyards and the wineries during harvest. And like I said, yeah, we're headquartered here in Sydney.
Fantastic. All too familiar with most of those brands as well. So
very good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
So look, in terms of your background, Christian, could you tell us a little bit more about what got you into HR, where it all started?
Yeah, for sure. So it actually goes way, way back in terms of when I graduated from university. I'd completed a management degree, but specialising in operations, and it was called logistics at that time. So supply chain, I guess today.
That's right.
And I got a manufacturing graduate program placement with Arnott's Biscuits.
Oh, yeah.
This was in Adelaide, so I'm an Adelaide boy. And effectively what it was a program that went for 2 years where you got to experience, everything in the business. So I was, working in the bakehouse or on the actual packaging line or in the chocolate factory, doing production, planning, procurement, a whole range of things.
Amazing.
And as part of that sort of cycle, I spent some time in HR. And it was quite funny because the time, which fell in terms of when my sort of, 3-month window was in HR, at that time, one of the permanent HR members of the team got called up to jury duty.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite a famous case in Adelaide. I won't go on about it, but basically she was stuck in jury duty for 12 months.
Wow.
So I was getting towards the end of my sort of, 2-year program. And, the HR manager at the time said, well, hey, you're in here working, you're working in the area that this person was working in, which was a lot of like training development type stuff. And they said, are you interested in continuing, to work in that area? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So that's sort of how I got into it. So it was more in that learning and development space. And then it just grew from there, to be honest. I really enjoyed it. I then sort of went into other areas in terms of, from a HR perspective within Arnott's. And then I got, bitten by the travel bug with my partner. So we decided to go overseas to the UK, and I continued from there. I kept on doing HR stuff, and here I am after many different roles. So, yeah.
Love that. Amazing. And has a lot of it been in the more sort of FMCG, consumer goods space and industry-wise?
Oh, look, it's been random, to be honest. So obviously consumer goods at first with Arnott's, but when I was in the UK, I worked in professional services. I worked with one of the local councils, so the London Borough of Croydon.
Oh, yeah, right.
I worked with them. I worked with in the rail, so with Bombardier. They'd just taken over a piece of the rail network with all the privatisation. Worked in automotive when I came back, working for Holden.
Yeah, right.
And then, came into the wine industry at first, but beverages more broadly in terms of alcoholic beverages. So,
amazing.
So yeah, I've been lucky. I've sort of, dabbled in a few different areas.
Definitely. And how would you comment or describe the transformation of HR in all those years? And I mean, through all those different industries, locations, I'm sure you would have seen a lot of change. Yeah,
well, if I go way back, it was called personnel management back there. So, I'd say the biggest change that I've seen is obviously the move from, heavily transactional to more strategic. And, I think that's been assisted somewhat through technology as well. In that there's a lot of technology that's come into play over the years that's, somewhat given managers a lot more autonomy and empowered them to be able to do things themselves, things that we were having to almost data enter in a way beforehand. And that's then changed the dynamics in terms of what HR do. And then I think the other thing that's happened over that time is, this realisation of the fact that, your business is only as good as your people, and, you need to treat your people well, and you need to invest in your people, in order to get the best results. And I think, again, that's just, helped grow the brand HR, so to speak, in terms of having a seat at the table.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, now is more clearer than ever how important it is when you look at the war for talent, which continues, especially in your particular market. What would you sort of say, or what kind of advice would you give to companies around that? I mean, especially with your supply chain logistics, it's in such high demand. We're talking external factors, inflation and price hikes and stuff like that. Is there any advice that you'd give to other businesses operating in the space in regards to best practice HR and talent acquisition through these times?
Yeah, sure. And look, I guess firstly what I'd say is every industry is very different. And I was having a dinner the other night with some other HR directors from a wide array of different industry sectors. And it was interesting talking about this because, there's some sectors where, for instance, they required engineers, and they were basically saying, look, in the past we required that. We were looking for that much. We've had to come back to that much now because that's all we can find. And we just need to accept that's what the market is at the moment, and then we have to train, up to a certain standard and so forth. And, I think this is where you need to be highly adaptable in terms of, having some flex in terms of what you do and how you do it. But the other thing I'd say as well, though, is it comes back to, this thing around, your employer brand, your EVP and so forth. And what I would say is, identify who you are as a business, what you stand for, and then stay true to that. It's almost like stop looking at everybody else, and trying to be someone else, and actually stand for something yourself and be yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not to say, don't see what's going on in the market and all that. That makes sense. You need to see what your landscape looks like. But, pick who you want to be and then stay true to that. And then how do you amplify that message out into the marketplace and create, I guess, that unique selling proposition of who you are and why do people want to be with you, you know. And it's not just about talent attraction. It's actually about talent retention.
That's right.
Because I can guarantee you every single person in your business is getting phone calls from recruiters trying to poach them and trying to entice them. And it's, you know, why should they stay? What is that reason? You know what I mean? So it works both ways. It works for your talent internally, and it works for those externally you're trying to attract.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, we talked a little bit about your background initially and how you got into HR, and big focus there on learning and development. And, you know, as you would know, retention often refers back to a lot of that. How are we retaining, developing, engaging our people? Do you think your initial sort of footprint in L&D sort of gave you the, I guess, the ability to be able to work proactively with the business to set up a strategy that's focused on development and learning and talent management as opposed to just purely recruiting?
Yes and no. Like I would say, you know, it's a complex equation when you look at, you know, why people want to work for an organisation and what they need and so forth. And yes, you are correct. You know, the point around providing people development opportunities, providing them career paths, you know, those sorts of things are really, really important. But having said that, though, you know, there are hygiene factors as well that you need to make sure that you're on top of. So, you know, just simple things like your compensation and your benefit strategy in your organisation. You know, if you're not competitive and if you're not, I guess, providing something that's going to, again, give an anchor to why people want to be with your business, then it doesn't matter how much learning and development and talent development you're doing. So I think, you know, there are those hygiene factors that you need to make sure that you've got within, you know, your organisation. And then what's that cream that sits at the top that really is your thing, you know, and that might be the development you give people. It might be the career paths you can offer. It may be the compensation and benefits you provide. And again, this is where it comes down to, you know, the differences with industries. Like, say, for instance, if you're a non-for-profit, as an example, right, it's probably going to be more in that space of the development opportunities you can provide and things like that, rather than the comp and ben.
That's right.
You know, it's to do with what's the purpose of what the person is doing in that organisation. You know, so you're probably tapping more on those sorts of things in order to attract and retain. You know, whereas it will look completely different, say, in a professional services organisation. Yeah. So I think it just depends on where you are in terms of what the emphasis is.
Yeah, that's right. And you touched on it earlier with regards to the transformation of HR over the past few years, and now it's quite a strategic role, and in most cases actually part of the leadership table, which is great. Noting your current role, and I've seen this quite a bit recently, is HR now, you know, having a communications element to the role, or sustainability part of the role. Like, talk to us a little bit about that. You know, where's the linking between those different areas and how important that is?
Yeah. So look, you know, I've had the communications and sustainability aspects now since the end of 2019, and you know, one of the primary reasons, if I talk about communications first, is, you know, a lot of what we do in HR links into comms in terms of, you know, articulating our messaging, whether it's internally or externally. So there was a hell of a lot of synergy around, you know, it's almost having the left and the right hands talking to each other. And it's not to say, you know, there's a lot of other things that happen in communications that are very bespoke to communications, don't get me wrong. But there is also a lot of things that work in tandem. And we've found by bringing those two together, the positives that we've had come out of that have been huge in terms of just, everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet, and really getting quite tight in terms of our message house that we have, both internally and externally. On the sustainability front, there's two aspects to sustainability. One is, I guess, more so linked to communications in terms of positioning as a brand, as a company, and the way we articulate what we're doing, our ambitions are, and all those sorts of things. And that's the link to comms. The other one is the technical side of sustainability, right? Which, I've also got an aspect associated with that. So, that one there, it's a little bit more random when it comes to the link to HR, the technical side of things. But look, it was one of those things where I was looking to get stretched. And it was an area which, when you're talking about things like, CO2 emissions and water use and renewable electricity and all this sort of stuff, it's a little bit different to the general discussions I have from an HR perspective. So that was probably more development opportunity than linked to HR as such.
Yeah, but also very important to note there as well, Christian, is the fact that, like you mentioned, it is a little bit random, but I'm sure through that transformation of HR over the last couple of years, pieces like culture at one point was probably a bit random for a HR leader to have as part of their remit, and now it's like a critical piece. So, who knows, that sustainability piece could become a lot more of a common element to the HR role in the next couple of years. Just on that, actually, we talked about sort of a bit more about the past and the present, like future predictions. What would you say could be some of the major challenges ahead for people and culture practitioners out there and businesses with HR?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest challenge is actually connected back to this question around future of work. And I don't mean in the sense of flexibility and stuff like that, right? What I'm talking about is most organisations that I speak to, and this is the same for our organisation, are going through massive digital transformation in their business, right? And it's happening everywhere. Like if I talk about our business, it's happening in the vineyards, in the wineries, our sales team, marketing, you name it, finance, etc. There's some form of digital transformation that's going on. And I think linking it back to future of work, it's this question of, okay, if I wind the clock forward in, say, 3 to 5 years' time, what's the configuration of my business going to look like? How is work going to be done? What's the flow of the work? What are the skills and the capability requirements that I'm going to have in the future, right? And I think if you then couple that with particularly the environment, in Australia and a lot of countries right now around the war for talent, you need to have a strategy as an organisation around how are you going to reskill your people in your business to do these new roles or to be able to complete these new tasks or skills, right? And you can't just go out there and acquire these skills. It's not going to work, right? So I think, that for me is the biggest challenge, is getting the crystal ball out, doing a bit of, strategic workforce planning around what do I think things are going to look like? Therefore, what sort of plan do I need to have around, whether it's talent acquisition, talent development, talent management, you name it, org design, etc. What's my plan? And I think that the plan isn't going to be right, I would say, but it's better than having nothing. So, and it's quite funny actually, because our strategic workforce planner always says, I know the plan's going to be wrong, but, we need to have something that we're working towards, right? Yeah, and it's going to be more right than wrong. So, which is true. So I think that for me is one of the biggest challenges that we've got, more for the longer term. There's other immediate things like, getting people back in the office and, all those sort of COVID-related things, but, hopefully they're more short-term.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, the thing there as well is, along with having a crystal ball, is I think speaking to your people as well, and speaking to the frontline staff, and speaking to the other
executive and senior leaders across all the different streams in the business, because the more people are speaking to each other about these, the future of work, for example, as a topic, the more insight you're going to get, and HR can really use all that information and sort of come up with these plans, whether they're successful plans or not. But like you say, it's better to have a plan than sort of come in a bit blind.
Exactly right. Yeah, something at least.
That's right. Yeah. Look, a question that I like to ask all guests, Christian, especially someone with your experience, what would be your top 3 tips for some of the more aspiring leaders and upcoming leaders in HR? What would be your sort of 3 more notable tips for them?
Yeah, look, the first one is, it's probably coming back to what you just said around listening. It's about getting into the business, understanding exactly what the business is about. What are those challenges? What are those strategic imperatives? And intimately understanding the business, because the more you can do that, the better it is then when it comes to you making decisions about what you do from a HR perspective in that business, because you have context.
That's right.
So I think, it's building that business acumen, those sorts of things. The other thing I would say as well is, look externally in terms of, whatever resources or things that you can tap into. There's so many different networks and things like that you can tap into these days to keep abreast of what's going on. You know what I mean? Because things are moving quick, and it's good just to understand. And again, it helps you bring that back into your organisation, different perspectives and different trends and things like that. And look, the third one I would say is, it's a bit like, head down, bum up sort of thing. Do the doing, you know what I mean? Take some risks, get in there, have a go, make sure that you are learning from those around you, that you're tapping into those resources within your organisation, those people that can mentor you, and get in there and do it. Because I think sometimes people can come into a situation quite early in their career and think, oh, yeah, that's easy, I can do that, that's no worries. But it's different when you are doing it. You know what I mean? When you're a sideliner and you're a spectator, so to speak, versus actually being the one to do it, it can be very, very different. So
that's right.
Get in there and have a go. Yeah,
because I guess the likelihood of your manager getting called to jury duty so you could step in is quite minimal. So
well, you never know.
You never know. And look, a couple of quick questions for you before you go, Christian. So,
sure.
Most influential person.
Oh, that would have to be my dad, to be honest.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Because he's the one that sort of taught me my whole work ethic and what to do and how to do it and stuff like that. So definitely my dad. Amazing.
Best lesson learned.
Oh, that's a hard one. Best lesson learned. I would come back to what I said before about, don't look at something at face value and think it's easy. It's different when you're in it doing it. So, it's very easy to cast judgment or have an opinion, but when you're in the situation, it can be very, very different.
Yeah. And I know we touched on this a little bit, but keen to get your preference, office, work from home or hybrid?
Personally, I'm a hybrid person. So I do appreciate working from home here and there. But having said that, though, I do love coming into the office and just bouncing off people, and that's what gives me energy. So, but it's horses for courses at the end of the day.
That's it. Exactly. It's interesting that there's a choice now in today's world of work.
That's good.
Who do you inspire?
Oh, hopefully I inspire my kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if they tell me that or not, but no, I guess coming back to what I said with my dad, you want to be able to pass that down to your children in terms of that legacy around, being good people, hardworking people, having respect, all those sorts of things.
Love it. And then, not that I can imagine anything frustrates you, but what frustrates you, Christian?
Standing still. So I'm one of those people, I can't stand still. So I hate procrastination. I just rather get on with it and see what happens. And,
Keep going.
If it doesn't work, I'll change direction and go in a different way. So,
Have you got any particular favourite hobby or sport?
During COVID, I got a bit more into mountain bike riding.
Oh, yeah.
For all my sins, with some mates and that. So, I had a few moments where I've come flying over handlebars and stuff that and managed to stay in one piece, But no, that's been what I've been getting into lately. It's been good fun.
You love the adrenaline.
Yeah, it's great. Apart from that, I'm a big AFL footy supporter, so I like watching.
Of course you will be. So, from Adelaide, of course.
Exactly right.
Last question for you, and I actually don't know the answer to this, even though we spoke quite recently. Upcoming retreat, holidays, or sort of anything on the bucket list, location-wise?
I wish at the moment. So my wife is completing her university degree this year, and it means we can't take a holiday until Christmas because she's in clinical placement.
Oh, wow.
But both of us are going mad at the moment with the sunny weather being cold. But no, from a work perspective, though, I'm quite lucky. I get to go to some quite nice places. So I'm off to the Napa Valley at the end of August for work.
Amazing.
Haven't been there for 2.5 years because of COVID.
Wow.
It'll be great to see the team and catch up with them and hopefully get some warm weather.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. Well, fingers crossed for you. Well, look, thanks very much for your time today, Christian.
Thank you.
I certainly got a lot of really informative content from that, and always good to catch up and have a bit of a laugh. Thank you to all the listeners, and thank you, Christian, again for jumping on, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you for tuning in to the HR Community Podcast. Remember to like and subscribe and share your views and comments below. This podcast was brought to you by Civitas Talent, the HR and HSC recruitment community. Whether you're a candidate looking for a new role or organization looking to secure brand new talent for your team, please get in touch with us today. Thank you.